This week we turn a bowl from a dead ash tree and experiment with a new coloring technique. Up at our old cabin about 3 years ago, I was forced to cut down multiple northern white ash trees, all killed by the emerald ash borer or beetle. They lay their eggs, the larva munches on the sap layer, and that's about it for the tree. I kept a couple of cut pieces for wood projects, including this piece about 10 inches in diameter. You can actually see the tunnels and tracks left by the larvae, and I think I'll keep some of that tragic history in the finished bowl. First, I'll need to trim down this half of a tree trunk into something a little closer to a rounded bowl shape and save myself the pain of trimming off those corners of the log on the lathe. With a tiny nail in the bottom center of the flat side, I can rotate the log in the bandsaw and get a decent rounded cut to work with. I also thought I recorded the flattening of the block with a power plane, but I messed up on that. Simply put, I just cleaned up the flat side of the block and took a couple passes on the rounded side to give me a flat surface to bond the headstock faceplate. Next, I'll glue on a sacrificial block to the bottom so that I can turn the bowl without needing to flip the block around and mount a recessed cut on the lathe chuck. This is just a round block of pine hot glued on what will be the bottom center of the bowl. After that glue sets up, I'll pre-drill some holes and screw in the faceplate to that block. After that, it'll be ready to mount and turn. As I begin to cut into this block, I wanted to show you an honest and unvarnished attempt at turning a bowl with a less than optimum piece of wood. This dead block of white ash is really best suited for the fire pit, but I wanted to see if I could give it some new life as something functional and maybe make it a gift for the holidays. The tree trunk wasn't very wide, so this split includes all the softer sapwood as well as the pith, or center core of the tree. The sapwood reacts differently to the cutting tools compared to the regular growth rings, and the center pith is prone to cracking when exposed. It would have been a better candidate for the lathe if it came from a much larger diameter tree and stayed away from those outer and inner growth layers. Also, I really didn't want to make this an instructional video on the proper way to turn a bowl. I'm still learning how to use this tool, even though I've done more than 50 projects on the lathe. But I really like the idea of showing you that anyone can add this lower cost hobby lathe to their own shop and expand their woodworking hobby to include this awesome creative tool. I never have the camera on when something really dramatic happens. So I was going to move the camera to a different angle, and I shut it off, and I decided to take one more gouge into the bowl, and it bit at the end grain, blew a chunk out of it, tore it off the glue mount, and sent it flying. It didn't hit me in the face, thankfully, but now Now that the shaping is done and we've preserved some of that beetle kill detail on the outside, I needed to start the finish sanding on the inside of the bowl. And of course, I absolutely have to have a new tool for the shop in order to do that.
Lucky.
Seriously though, this inflatable round mini bowl sander by Kyrgyz looks like it'll be flexible and awesome for sanding inner curves. It also looks like the system is marketed by another company called King Arthur Tools. With grits from 60 to 320, you can really get a smooth finish on the inner bowl surface. You insert the rubber bulb into the sanding drum and slightly inflate the bulb to hold the sandpaper. While other components can be purchased, including a drive motor, the sanding bulb works pretty nicely in a standard cordless drill. It fits against the curves and remains flexible, not putting too much pressure in any one spot. I kind of like this tool, which of course was absolutely required in order to finish this project.
Yeah, what about that green color?
Wanting to color the rim with an emerald green, just like the beetle that killed the tree, I've had trouble with water and oil-based stains on porous woods like this because the color just tends to run through the grain beyond your desired edge. Hard to color just the small flat lip of this bowl, but maybe, just maybe, this ultra-fine colored mica powder might be the ticket. It acts like stain and actually gets into the wood grain, but it also stays put, even if you try to wipe it off. I tried applying it with a foam brush and the bowl rotating, but using my finger against the grain seemed to give me the best results. I was careful not to get any of the color on the outside or inside of the bowl, and I think the result looks pretty awesome. For finishing, I was pretty sure that using any wax or wiping oil would move the color around beyond the top lip, so I opted for a first light coat of polyurethane to seal that color in. In the end, I finished it with 4 coats in total, semi-gloss. With the spray finish dry, the last step was to flatten out the base and cut it from the sacrificial pine block. The bowl required a little more sanding just on the small rounded bottom, but no trouble to finish it from there. I think I like the history of this tree retained in the patches of sapwood destroyed by the ash borer beetle. Most people might think it looks ugly and that I just should have cut through the deformity, but nature is never perfect. No matter how many white ash bowls you might see in your lifetime, this larva cut pattern on this bowl will make it one of a kind. Not bad for a dead tree and a scrap piece of firewood. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. We hope you give us a thumbs up and that you subscribe to the channel. Stay frosty.